Welcome in for week 6 of Cole's Buckeye Corner here on the Keon Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you do so here on the channel. Again, we're only about halfway through the college football season, just about hitting that halfway point here in this week. High school football season getting towards the end of the regular season, but only halfway through in the path to state championships. And, of course, a lot more NFL content also coming up here on this channel. A lot going on throughout the fall, so make sure you subscribe so you can be up to date with everything happening here for Keon Sports. Well, Cole's Buckeye Corner, as always, is sponsored by Hinckley Roofing. A shout out to them. If you need anything related to roofing needs, make sure you reach out to Hinckley Roofing at hinkleyroofing.com. Again, have to thank them for being a sponsor of this show. They're the people you want to reach out to, like I said, when it has to do with your roof. Getting this thing started, Buckeyes had a bye week last week. Got some time to rest after the win against Notre Dame. A close win. It was ever so close, like I mentioned before, by the skin of their teeth. Last play is what it came down to. But the Buckeyes got the job done, and they're undefeated. And we're going to touch on Ohio State here in a moment, but I want to start with the opponents. It's Maryland. Maryland. They have been known to give Ohio State maybe some problems when Ohio State has to go down to Maryland and play them. Remember that one time that was really, really close years ago where Ohio State barely won on the road and Maryland just ran all over that defense. When Maryland goes to Ohio State, though, not nearly the same sort of success. And we'll touch on what I expect to see from this game, but this is a different Maryland squad from past years. This is a better squad than past years. And my big question starting off is, how is Maryland not ranked? The Terrapins, they're 5-0. They've been perfect to this point. And any team that I think is 5-0 in a Power 5 conference and has played at least one or two conference games already to this point, regardless of opponents, feels like they should be in that top 25. Somehow Maryland is not in there. There are teams with 2 losses that are in the top 25. Teams that just lost and were towards the back end that are in there. And I think that Maryland should be in the top 25. They're deserving, probably the most deserving of all teams outside of the rankings of being in there. They probably feel slighted. And because of that, they have a great opportunity to go up to Columbus, go to the Horseshoe. They've never beaten Ohio State and try to make a statement. And if they beat Ohio State, not only will they get in the top 25, they'll probably be somewhere in the teens. I don't even think they'd just sneak into the 20s. That being said, though, Maryland, how are they so good? Well, one of their main factors is the younger brother of Tua Tagovailoa. It's Tulia. Tulia, the guy we've seen for the past couple years, he's looked good. Hasn't been really in the same stratosphere and the same conversation as Caleb Williams, Drake May, Quinn Ewers. We can go down the list and list all those quarterbacks. But he's a guy who has a lot of talent, maybe not to the same level of his brother Tua. I don't think he'll be starting in the NFL, but I expect him to get a roster spot in the NFL at some point, whether that's on a 53 or on a practice squad. He's playing like he can play in the NFL. This season, starting off the year, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,464 passing yards. He has been excellent, really clinical to start the year, and they're going to need him to have a big game against Ohio State going to the Shoe. Now, for the Buckeyes, we'll turn to them. Had the bye week, time for Marvin Harrison Jr. to rest. That ankle sounds like it definitely isn't the best situation with that sprain that he has there. Again, I wouldn't mind if Ohio State does not play him this weekend to let him rest. Ohio State has plenty of weapons in that wide receiver room. Next man up. And Egbuka obviously can step up, and then you have other guys after him. But what I would like to see them do is establish the ground game. Chip Trayanum, Travion Henderson, maybe some Mayan Williams in goal line situations. Go to those 3 running backs. Play behind the offensive line. An offensive line that I actually think have done a good job of opening up holes in the ground game. Still needs some work in pass protection, but they played better than I think what most people expected at the beginning of the year especially when they went up against Notre Dame. Astronomical difference, I think, from what we saw in week 1 for Ohio State, and it was against a better opponent. But go to the ground first, get the ground game going, and then once Maryland has to cheat up into the box to try to stop the run, that's when McCord and the passing attack can really let loose. And I think that's your way of at least starting the game and getting things established, getting the wheels turning, because an off week, a bye week, can be a good thing to rest up, and you get to really prep for a team for a while, but it also can result in maybe not be fully clicking when you first come out because you had a little bit of time away from playing. So even though guys should be healthy for the most part, again, I just think they need to get the engine going again in those first couple drives. As for the defense, they need to generate the pass rush. You're going up against a good quarterback in Tagovailoa. You have to get after him. The pass rush hasn't been there enough from what I've liked. I've talked about the edge rushers, talked about the blitz from the middle. I don't think there's been a ton of pressure on quarterbacks here so far for Ohio State, but I think if they can establish that in this game, then obviously Maryland's chances go to the wayside. But my main thing is, before I get to my prediction here, I just sung a lot of high praises for Maryland and gave some reasons why Maryland could potentially sneak up on Ohio State in this one. But what's with all the talk about a potential upset here? I think Maryland could make it close, but in no way is this Terrapins team, in my opinion, taking down Ohio State coming off of a bye week, off of a big win they had against Notre Dame, a close win on the road. Maryland hasn't beaten Ohio State, and I haven't been proven otherwise here yet. I think I'd have to see it to believe it, and it's not going to happen at the Shoe. More likely on the road, but at the Shoe, Maryland's coming into Ohio State's house. And because of that, Ohio State cruises. Not going to be a close game. Ohio State cruises, as I mentioned. 38-17 is my score with the Buckeyes taking down Maryland, remaining perfect on the year. Maryland gets their first loss on the year. If they actually play Ohio State close, and I don't think there's really much of a chance of them winning, but if they do keep it to a one-score ball game, Maryland, even with a loss, should go up into the top 25 in my opinion. If your only loss is a one-possession loss to an Ohio State team that's top 10, then I think you have to actually go up despite the loss. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I do think it's going to be pretty easy. Look like Ohio State handles Maryland quite well, and that's why I have that 38-17 score prediction. Talia might have a drive or two where things are clicking, but I just feel like Knowles is going to draw something up to generate that pressure, generate the heat that we haven't seen so far, and it might come from guys like Sonny Styles or maybe even just guys in the secondary or from the linebacker group actually being the ones generating the pressure while the defensive line just absorbs bodies there up front. My must-watch 3 for this week. Well, at the same time as the Ohio State game at noon, number 1 is the Red River rivalry. Number 12, Oklahoma, and number 3, Texas at noon. And that's the Fox Big Noon kickoff there on Saturday, and I think that one is going to be fun. Oklahoma is not to the level of Texas. I think Texas should win in that game, but I'm still not 100% as sold as other people. Texas should not be ranked, I think, in the top 5. I think they should be just outside. I don't trust them fully. Sure, they got the win against Alabama, but this is a weaker Alabama team this year. So I still think Texas might not actually be a top 5 team. Could be interesting in that one. Number 2 is number 23 LSU at number 21 Missouri, and that's also Saturday at noon. Another one that, even though I'll be looking at the Ohio State game and the Oklahoma-Texas game, I'll still maybe occasionally try to flip over to LSU Missouri just to check out what's going on over there, because LSU, they just lost to Ole Miss. Now they're going up against a Missouri team that's undefeated. LSU's heavy favorites going on the road in this game, but don't count out Missouri at home. They have a good chance in this one. And at number 3, another SEC matchup, Number 20, Kentucky at number 1, Georgia, that Saturday at 7 o'clock. Georgia, despite being the number 1 team in the country, and I think it's hard to argue that when they're undefeated and they've been national champs for the past 2 years in a row, they have to lose to get unseated to that spot no matter how unconvincing they've been. This Georgia team doesn't look like a number 1 team, but again, you can't really take them out of that top spot until they lose. Could Kentucky actually be the test for them? Marching in there to Athens, trying to take down the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't think it will happen this week. If it were in Kentucky, could be a different story. But even if Kentucky plays Georgia close again, I'm still going to have a lot of questions about what I've seen from Georgia so far this year, and can they be real threats come the end of the season. That's going to do it here for this episode. Again, we'll see how everything pans out, but I'll be back with you here for Week 7 of Cole's Buckeye Corner. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button. A lot of high school football action coming up here on the Keon Sports YouTube channel, as the game of the week that I'm on the call for, that one's Avon Lake at Olmsted Falls, an SWC matchup. Make sure you check that game out. All the other highlight videos will be up over the weekend, and make sure you go to keonsports.com as well to check the written recap articles. For myself, Cole McDaniel, enjoy the rest of your day, and go Bucks.